Welcome to Moving the Needle, the podcast packed with digital marketing strategies crafted exclusively for med spas. If you're looking to draw in more patients, grow your revenue, and level up your business, you're in the right place. This show is your inside track to scaling smarter. Get ready to glow up and get your injection of med spa marketing strategies with your host, Chris Fank.
All right, welcome back to Moving the Needle. This is the show where we dig into real strategies and innovations that are driving growth in the med spa and aesthetics industry. I'm your host, Chris Fank, and today's guest is someone whose name has kind of become synonymous with innovation and integrity in medical aesthetics. Mark Rohrer, founder of, multiple businesses, Mark, but currently the founder of Trinity Medical Solutions. Mark has spent over 3 decades in the aesthetic device industry. So he's built and scaled multiple companies, starting with Sandstone Medical Technologies, Rohre Aesthetics, and now into Trinity, and all of which have helped shape and redefine accessibility and affordability in the aesthetic technology space. So now with Trinity, Mark's doing it again, and this time bringing different types of advanced health treatments to practices across the country. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how Mark identifies untapped opportunities in the marketplace and what it takes to bring new medical technology to market, how med spas and wellness centers can leverage that innovation, not just for growth, but for better patient outcomes and business sustainability. Mark, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining. You've built and sold multiple companies in the aesthetic technology space, but what really stands out about your story is how consistent your mission has been, helping providers deliver high-quality care without being buried under massive capital investments and complex systems. So before we really dive into Trinity and what you've got going on now, I'd love to go back a little bit. You've seen this industry evolve from the 90s to today with lasers, and energy-based systems, and now pelvic health technology. What originally drew you to the aesthetic and medical device space?
Chris, and thank you for having me. My story is really a great story. I'm not that smart, but things have happened in my life that have really shaped me and shaped my companies. And I started off. I'll just tell you, when I finished school, a little history about me. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I've been married to my wife 37 years. She was 15, I was 17 when we started dating. No, we're not cousins, even though we live in Alabama. She was 15, I was 17. We dated for 6.5 years, been married coming up on 38 years. So it's a great story, but that's a great story in itself, but I was 2 years older than her. I'm one of 8. I have 7 siblings. And when I finished school, I got a job in Atlanta. And I was working for a company that had nothing to do with the medical industry. I was actually writing code for an industrial machine. And it required a lot of traveling. And my wife and I, she's 2 years younger than me, so when we got married, we moved to Atlanta, and she was like, Mark, you got to find a new job. You can't be gone 4 nights a week, which I get it. And back then, we lived in Atlanta. If you wanted a job, all you had to do was look in the Sunday paper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and it was full of jobs. So this was in 1990, and I ran across an ad for a company called Laser Sonics. At the time, they were a surgical laser company based out of Milpitas, California. And this is before aesthetic lasers were ever even thought of. And I started off as a service engineer for those guys, repairing the lasers. So I learned lasers from the inside out. And then in 1995, I joined the sales force. And I'll tell you this whole story. When I went into sales, the vice president of sales, his name was Sandy Ergus. Sandy didn't want to give me the job. He goes, you're a service guy, you're not a sales guy. and I don't think you'll succeed. And he goes, Mark, Tom Eganfeld, who was the president of Laser Sonics at the time, told Sandy he had to give me the job. And Sandy told me, you're not going to succeed. We're going to fill your service job. And when you fail here, you're not going to have your service job. So that was, so be very careful when you accept this position. So I said, Sandy, I'll take the challenge, and I accepted the position. And that was March in 1995. So there were 12 sales guys at the time. I was I made the 13th sales guy, and Sandy told that story as he was presenting me with my Salesman of the Year Rolex for 1995. So not tooting my own horn, but I was the top sales rep for 95, 96, 97, 98, and 99. And in the summer of 1999, my wife and I are sitting around our dinner table, and I'd always talked about starting my own company. And she looked at me and she goes, Mark, Susan said, you're 35 years old. You've been talking about starting your own company for I don't know how many years. If you're going to do it, you need to do it, okay? She goes, if it doesn't work out, you're a great sales guy. You've proven that. If it doesn't work out, you'll get another sales job. So that was in the summer of 1999. And in January of 2000, I turned in my notice. I quit. And that was a great job. And a lot of my friends, and like I said, I'm one of 8 kids. I'm towards the end. My brother, who's 2 years older than me, who's my best friend, told me I was crazy. He said, Mark, you got a great job. Why are you doing this? But I did it anyway, and I started Sandstone Medical. And we actually started off selling used lasers. We were one of the first used laser companies to enter that side of the industry. And Sandstone grew. We were just a little small company. We started out of the basement of my house. After about 8 months, I bought my first building, and the company grew. And fast forward to 2003, other used laser companies started popping up around then. And I'm just going to say some of them didn't have the same morals I had. And I decided then I did not want to be in the used laser business all my life. So I started looking for how I was going to take it to the next level. Well, there was a company in Jacksonville, Florida called PSS, Physician Sales and Services. And PSS sold Band-Aids, peroxide, anything a physician's office need, PSS sold. And they'd had a relationship with Candela. And Candela is one of the largest laser companies in the world. And that relationship ended in divorce. And PSS had 86 brand new Candela General lasers in the crate in their warehouse. So I cut a deal with PSS, and I bought all 86 of those lasers. And I remember when I was talking to their CFO, he goes, Mark, I sell them to you for $12.5 a piece, but you got to buy them all. And I remember being at the dinner table that night, again, talking with my wife. My 3 kids were around the table as well. They were all young. I said, Susan, we just can't afford that. And she looked at me and goes, Mark, you can't afford not to do it. She goes, you'll sell them. So I didn't have that kind of money. I did have some money. I did have really good credit. And I was fortunate enough that my years in the laser industry as a sales guy, we had been able to just about pay off our house. So she said, let's mortgage the house. So we went all in. We mortgaged the house. We borrowed all the money we could. And in November of 2003, I purchased 86 brand new Candela General lasers from PSS.
Wow.
And by May of 2004, I'd sold every one of them for $35,000 a piece. So that's what gave me seed money. That's what gave me money to start investing in my own technology. And the first laser that we developed, my business partner at the time, his name was Darius Cruz. I was the sales end, he was the service end. The first laser we built was a CO2 laser. It's called the Matrix, and there's still a lot of Matrix CO2 lasers out in the field running today. Then we added a Q-switch ag for tattoo removal. Then we added an IPL. Then we added an 18 diode for hair removal. fast forward 2012, we're now solely selling our own product line, no more used lasers. We're a multi-million-dollar company. We're debt-free, and Elman Cynosure came knocking on our door. And of course, Cynosure is one of the largest laser companies in the world, and they offered me a lot of money for my company, and we sold it. I sold the company, and I became the executive vice president for Elman. That was a division of Cynosure. Elman was the division of Cynosure. I was the VP for Elman, and I'm not going to say it was a bad relationship. It wasn't a bad relationship, but their business philosophy and mine were just not the same. We were all about selling affordable technology so that our customers could realize return on investment. And Sandstone, all of our lasers they all had the same price, $39,995. That was our sale price for a hair removal laser, for a Q-switch laser, for a CO2 laser, whatever laser you wanted. They were $40,000 a piece. But immediately after I sold to Elman Cynosure, our prices doubled, and some of them even went higher than double. Okay, and I know what it costs to build the things because I did it, and I know the cost of manufacturing didn't go up because it was the same. They just did that because, and I get it, they're a publicly traded company. They're in it to make money, but they did it just because they could. Okay, and like I said, their business philosophy and mine were not the same. So after 2 years, 2014, I fulfilled my contract obligations, and I left the company in September of 2014, and I had a 1-year non-compete, and I started a company called Rohre Aesthetics. And Rohre Aesthetics, it was a better version of Sandstone. Okay, Sandstone, I'd already taken my lumps and bumps. I learned my mistakes. I knew the secret recipe, so I started Rohre Aesthetics, and the first laser we introduced was called the Spectrum. And before we introduced it, we did this big survey to med spas and to physicians and said, if you could build the perfect laser, what would you want? And the top 5 things I heard was, number 1, we want something that's multifunctional because we don't have room for 4 lasers in IPL. Number 2, we want technology that we know works. Number 3, we want something that's affordable, so that we're buying this to grow our practice income. Number 4, we want something that has a service contract for more than 1 year, because what a lot of companies don't tell you is you buy their device and then their service contract the next year is going to be over $10,000. And the last thing was no consumables or disposables. So out of that, we built a system called the Spectrum, and you always hear you can't be everything to everybody. We nailed it with the Spectrum. We met all the criteria. It was 4 lasers and an IPL. You had 1 laser for tattoo removal, 1 laser for hair removal, 1 laser for skin resurfacing, 1 laser for vascular reduction, and an IPL for all the non-ablative stuff. It was all proven technology. All that technology, those wavelengths had been around for at least 10 years. It was proven, in gold standard technology. We priced the laser. We introduced it at $50,000, and it came with a 2-year warranty, and there were no consumables or disposables. And that we introduced that in September 2015, and it was a no-name company. No one had ever heard of Rohre Aesthetics, and no one had ever heard of the Spectrum. And my goal was to sell 30 lasers by the end of the year. So I thought that was pretty aggressive. Well, we wound up selling 56 by December 31st. So what I did is I had intentions of raising the price a little bit in 2016, but instead I left them the same. And the company, the Spectrum was received very well, okay? We also added the Phoenix CO2 laser. So for 2016, 2017, those are the only 2 products we had. And we were doing quite well. And then in 2018, we got our FDA clearance for the Pixel 8 RF microneedling system. And You always hear Friday the 13th is an unlucky day. That was a great day for me because it was Friday, July the 13th, when the FDA sent us our clearance letter for the Pixel 8. So, so crazy things have happened to me that shouldn't have happened, okay? And that was in July. And in August of that same year of 2018, I met a guy named N.J. Wazani, who was the vice president of MERS. And we were at a trade show in Arizona, and he and I had breakfast together. And first words out of N.J.'s mouth were, Mark, if you think MERS is going to buy your company, you're wrong. We're not interested in buying your company. And I was like, well, N.J., that's good to know because we're just a couple years old right now, and I don't want to sell my company. But what we did recognize is MERS at the time, all they had was the Althera system for their capital equipment reps to sell, and they had a 13-man sales force. I had 3 products now, and we just had 3 salespeople. So we decided that we would see if we couldn't form an alliance, okay? And I had the products that they needed. They had the sales force that I needed, okay? And sure. Look, I don't like managing salespeople because I'm one myself, and I know where sales guys are prima donnas. They're demanding, and I just didn't want to deal with them, okay? So I never really hired a bunch of sales guys. But what MERS taught me was a good sales guy doesn't cost you anything. Yes, you have to pay him, but a good sales guy pays their own way. And I say sales guy or saleswoman. I mean, there's some women out there who are better than a lot of the guys, okay? And so NJ had to go to Germany. They had to get approval from MERS Germany to sign a contract with a little no-name company like Rohre, because MERS USA or North America is owned by MERS Germany. So NJ went to the Germans and said, look, we want to form this alliance with Rohre. We think it can help us sell our injectables, and we can partner with them. So Germany pretty much said, look, we don't think it's going to succeed, but if that's what y'all want to do, have at it. So in January of 2019, MERS and Rohre Aesthetics formed an alliance, okay? And it was just supposed to be for a year, and it was wildly successful. So in December of 2019, MERS asked, do you want to renew the contract? And I said, sure. And then in January, the first week of January, I met with NJ and Patrick Urban, who was the president of MERS North America. And they were like, look, our fiscal year ends in June of this year. We would like to talk about buying Rohre Aesthetics. Would you be open to that? And I was like, absolutely. So that was in January. Well, we all know what happened in February actually March 13th, another Friday, March 13th of 2020, the world stopped. Okay, COVID hit. And I can tell you, I don't mind sharing this, $11 million of my previous sales in 2019 had come from trade shows. We didn't do any digital marketing at all. All we did were trade shows, and we advertised in a few public publications. And when COVID hit, what happened to trade shows? They went away.
Right.
And I was thinking, how am I going to make up that revenue? So in December 2019, a guy had stopped by my office from a digital marketing company called High Level Marketing here in town, and he dropped off his business card, and I was like, yeah. So, but when COVID hit, I wasn't doing trade shows. I thought, you know what, I'm going to call this guy. His name's Ryan Files, and I picked up the phone and I called Ryan, and we didn't sell anything the month of April. MERS had quit selling. All my sales guys, my 3 sales guys that I had, they were all sheltering at home, and and I reached out to high level marketing and said, okay, I'm going to give you $5,000. Let's see what you can do with it. And that was in May of 2020, and we had a few sales in May. So in June, I said, okay, Ryan, I'm going to give you $10,000. We had a good June. July came, Ryan, I'm going to give you $20,000. We had a great July, a great August, a great September, and going into to the last quarter of 2020, I was like, all right, Ryan, we're going to mash the gas this last quarter. I'm going to double it again. I'm going to give you $40,000, and this is per month, okay? So I was started off at $5,000. Now I'm spending $40,000 a month with him, and I can tell you, 2020 was a horrible year for our country, but it was at the time it was Rohre Aesthetics' best year. We surpassed our sales from 2019, and MERS didn't start selling again until probably August of 2020. So I didn't have those guys, but our company still grew. Also in October of 2020, NJ came to me and said, look, Mark, the partnership between Rohre and MERS, I hate to tell you, but it's not going to renew in 2021. And I was like, what happened? And he goes, Mark, it's not that we don't love you and love your company and love your products. The other MERS divisions, MERS Asia, MERS Europe, all the other MERS divisions, they wanted, because it had been so successful with MERS North America, they wanted Rohre products. Well, we only had FDA clearance in the U.S., so we couldn't sell outside the U.S. And MERS Germany made the decision to go with a larger company, Candela. And Patrick and NJ and I both met and talked about it, and they were like, look, we begged MERS Germany to let us keep Rohre and let the rest of the world deal with Candela. But the answer is no. You have to, we all have to join Candela. So that's when MERS and Candela formed a relationship, and I don't think it worked very well because it's non-existent now. But what MERS taught me, and I mentioned this earlier, I never wanted to hire a bunch of sales guys, but MERS taught me a good sales guy doesn't cost you anything; they pay for themselves. So I hired a guy named Ryan Arca to be my vice president of sales. He had been working for MERS, and he left MERS and he joined me at Rohre. And we built out a little 8-man sales force of men and women, and 2021 was an incredible year for us. We did better with my 8 sales guys than we ever did with MERS. Every year our company grew. So I would say the fall of 2021, private equity knocks on my door. And private equity, as you know, they're buying up everything now.
Right.
And they offered me stupid money for Rohre Aesthetics, and I sold it. And I was 57 at the time. They said, look, Mark, and look, they were upfront and honest with me about everything. They said, look, we're going to get a new CEO. We want you to stay on as president for 3 years. That's part of the deal. But we're paying, a lot of money for your company. We're going to put our own management team in place. And they told me that up front. I knew it going into it, kind of what was going to happen, and they
Sure.
did that. But I will say, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and I did exactly what I was supposed to do. We had a 3-year agreement, and that agreement ended in March of this year. And I really thought, when I sold the company, I'd be ready to ride off into the sunset, because I was going to be 60 years old, and I was like, I've had enough. But Chris, it turns out I wasn't ready to ride off into the sunset. So I didn't want to start another aesthetic laser company. I'd already done 2, and plus Rohre is still thriving in the industry. They're still, one of the leaders in the industry. That company bears my name. I didn't want to come up with another aesthetic company to compete with the one that I love. Okay.
Right.
So I started looking around, and I decided I wanted to investigate the the medical and wellness side of the industry. And I was looking around. I was at a trade show. I went by a booth, the Zimmer USA booth, talked to one of their guys there, and he goes, "Mark, you ought to look at this new device we have. It's called the PF Toner," and it was an EMS chair for treating the weak pelvic floor. Okay, and there's a lot of things that are associated with a weak pelvic floor. Urinary incontinence, fecal incontinence is caused by a weak pelvic floor. Nocturia, where you wake up more than once in the middle of the night to rush to the bathroom. Women's sexual wellness as women age and go through menopause. Intercourse can get painful due to the lack of lubrication, and that's due to blood flow, and that's caused by a weak pelvic floor. And one of the main causes for ED for men is a weak pelvic floor. So there's a lot of stuff associated with a weak pelvic floor, and these are all topics that a lot of people suffer from, but they don't want to discuss it, and
Right.
and I get it. So I looked at that chair that Zimmer had, and it was really nice. Okay, I sat on it, didn't hurt, and I was like, "Does this thing really doing anything?" So I had a good friend who used to be a vice president of BTL, who and BTL they introduced the M-Cella chair back in 2018, and I talked to the former vice president. His name's Ron, and I was like, "Ron, yeah, tell me about that M-Cella chair." And he goes, "Mark, it's one of the best devices BTL has. The problem is, it's so expensive." Okay. And he said, if you could figure out a way to get that down in price, that would be something you might want to consider. So I looked at it. I talked to several physicians who had EMS chairs in their office. They all raved about them, but again, it was all about the cost. They weren't really making any money because the cost of the device were so expensive, and then the service contracts are expensive.
Right.
And plus this industry, I mean, every time you turn around a piece of capital equipment, this one's $100,000, this one's $150,000, this one's $200,000. I mean,
Right.
It's gotten to the point where physicians, they can't afford all of it to buy it all, and med spas, if they're not owned by a physician, if they're just a business partner with a medical director, it's hard to get those guys financed. But even if they have great credit, I mean, it's just hard to get them financed. And then when they do get financed, they have a 16% interest rate, and their payment's $3,000 a month. And I will tell you, and this has never been me, wasn't me at Sandstone, it wasn't me at Rohre, okay? Capital equipment companies, and I'm speaking just in general,
Sure.
I know what it costs to build this type of technology because I've been doing it, okay? They charge these crazy prices just because they know they can get you financed. They know you got a lot of nice letters after your name. They know that you have good credit, and they can get you financed. There was once a doctor gave a talk, and the title of his talk was like, capital equipment companies are like colleges and universities. And the gist of his talk was, it's expensive to send your kid to college. Why is it expensive? Because that institution knows that either the kid or his family will pay for it, or that kid will get a loan from the federal government. And they could care less if that kid graduates. They could care less what their major is. They could care less if they make their payment. They could care less if it ruins their credit. Because guess what? They moved on to the next kid. Capital equipment companies are the same way. They know that they can get this account financed for a $3,000 a month payment. And the leasing company's going to give them their money up front, okay? They don't care if that account uses the device. They don't care if the doctor makes their payments. They don't care if they ruin their credit or go bankrupt trying to pay for it because they've moved on. That has never been Mark Rohrer. That's never been Sandstone Medical. That's never been Rohre Aesthetics. and it surely is not Trinity Medical Solutions. So, so getting back to the EMS chair, I wanted to find out a way to provide the best of both worlds, something that you can afford, plus where there's no risk. Okay, so we built an EMS chair, and we call it the Restora, and we use the BTL device when we petition the FDA for clearance. We use the BTL MSLA device as our predicate device. So the devices are very, very similar, okay? But we do things a little bit different with ours, okay? So what we do is we collect a $5,000 training fee, a $5,000 installation fee, and $995 for 8, so $11,000. And then we'll put the chair, a brand new chair, in the office. We'll come on site and train the staff on how to use the chair. We let you use it for 30 days after the training. It's not 30 days when you sign the quote. It's not 30 days from when it arrives on site. It's 30 days after you've been trained and know how to use it. If for any reason during those 30 days, and by the way, you'll know in 21 days because we recommend 6 treatments, 2 a week for 3 weeks, and 95% of the patients, that's all they need initially. But you'll know in 21 days, we give you 30 days. During the 30 days after the training, if you change your mind, we'll give you back your training installation fee. You walk away from the deal, okay? However, if you decide you want to keep it, it's $1,000 a month. You pay directly to Trinity Medical $1,000 a month. You can keep it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. If you ever decide you don't have the patient population to support it, guess what? You can quit. You can return it. If your life, something changes in your life and you have to close your med spa for some reason, guess what? You can quit. You're not obligated to it.
No debt.
I mean, it's a new way to obtain capital equipment without the risk. And I really think this model is going to change the industry. And quite frankly, I think the industry needs to be changed. I've been called a disruptor in this industry. One for having low price technology, which our technology has always been, I think, as good or better than our competitors. We were just more affordable. But with this model that we're offering at Trinity, we take a couple of things. One, we take all the risk out of it. We let you use it for 30 days. More importantly, we're renting this chair to you. So what did you buy? You didn't buy anything. So guess what? There's no sales tax because you didn't buy anything, and you don't pay sales tax on services like training, installation, or freight. So there's no sales tax. Plus, you have to check with your accountant, but they're going to tell you what my accountant told me. The $1,000 a month payment, that's considered an operating expense, and 100% of that is you can take off your taxes. So it really is a new way to obtain capital equipment, which I think there needs to be a new way to do that. And it makes it where you can afford it. And that's what our new model is. And look, Chris, I'm not doing this because I need the money. I was very successful with my other 2 companies, and I don't mean for that to sound cocky, but I'm doing this just because I love this industry. I love giving back. And I will tell you, when you treat somebody who's got pelvic floor issues and you hear how it changes their life and restores their confidence, look, aesthetic procedures are great. They make you look good, and I love the aesthetic industry has been good to me. But when you can fix somebody with a medical condition like that, that's what life's all about, giving back. And I'm proud to be able to offer this type of technology at this type of investment, where it's a low-cost investment as well.
Yeah, when you can remove that barrier and that big capital expense and all the risk that comes, when you can risk mitigate in that way, and everything that you're saying, that can really fill your cup when you feel good about everything that you're doing and bringing out. Thinking back a little bit, like, thank you for taking the time and walking through that. Like, what a great journey
Yeah.
that you had, and great experiences growing. Like Trinity might not have be realizing the level of success that you're seeing now had you not gone through the experience before, and then sold, Sandstone to Signature and the Rohre aesthetics. When you think back on those experiences, and this is really just for like any business owner, right, or any entrepreneur that's growing their business, what do you think some of the biggest lessons that you took from those experiences, both from the point of innovation, but also in leadership? What were the biggest mental breakthroughs for you and the lessons that you took out of those?
I'm going to tell you what made me successful. First of all, I was surrounding myself with people who I knew I could trust. Okay, that was. But more importantly, Chris, I never really worried about the money. Okay, I just wanted to provide a great product at a great price, so you could my clients could realize return on investment. I didn't worry about the money. If you treat people right, the money will come. Okay, our reputation in the industry, it was stellar. Okay, Rohre Aesthetics had incredible, an incredible identity. I mean, our customers love us. Okay, and that's something else. I mean, I would still go to trade shows. I would still be in the booth, and it wasn't there like look. I see a lot of presidents from other companies at trade shows. They're there 15, 20 minutes, and then they're off. Okay, I stayed in the booth.
Right.
I met my customers. I shook their hands. If there was ever an issue, I would always address it, and I would make sure all my customers, they had my cell phone number. They could call me up to 10:30 at night Central Time, and they knew that if they called me, if I wasn't busy, I was going to answer the phone. And to this day, I still do that. I still get calls from. Yeah, I got one from Dr. Shaw. He's Neil Shaw. He's a plastic surgeon in Chicago. He sent me a message just yesterday about his Sandstone unit. Mark, I'm having a problem. How do I get it fixed? And I fixed him up. That's just the kind of relationship I had. I never dodged a call, and like I said, it was never. If you focus only on money, your reputation is not going to be solid. Okay, you just treat people fair. Okay, and give them something where they can realize return on investment. Look, if you're selling a piece of capital equipment to a 5-man group where there's 4 or 5 doctors in the practice, a $200,000 unit is not that big of a deal. Okay, but when you're trying to sell a $200,000 piece of equipment to a solo practitioner in Andalusia, Alabama, they are really that's their livelihood they're putting on that they're risking, and it's just not right. It's not right. And
what you're talking about there reminds me of something that another guest had mentioned to me, which is what we obsess over or what we chase. And when we chase money, then it becomes more elusive. When we're in love with delivering what we're delivering, when we're passionate about that and it's about the outcome, everything else will follow. But if we're chasing the symptomatic things, we're chasing the symptoms and not chasing down the causes. Providing something that you can take to market that will enable these businesses to operate profitably and deliver good outcome to their patients, being in love with that, everything else will work out. But if you're just in love with the money, then you're probably never really going to focus on, am I delivering the best product at the best price to the practices, and actually care about that practice's success and, by extension, their patients' health.
Right. And what you said is exactly right. And I will tell you, I do love my company, but I'm not married to my company. I'm married to Susan. And I would never, and that's something else. I would never sacrifice my family. Could have I taken my companies international and grown them to where they were even bigger? I could have done it. I could have hired people to help me do it. But you know what? That means I would have had to have traded something. And that would have been trading my family, which they're the most important thing to me. I got 3 beautiful daughters and 3 beautiful 2 grandchildren and a 3rd grandson on the way. So 3 soon.
Nice.
That's who I'm married to. And, I love what I do. But I will tell you, if I had to lose money to keep my customers happy, all you got in life's your reputation. I would lose money to keep my customers happy, and it's never been that way, but I think this is it's an ever changing industry, and I think it's time for a change. I think it's time to come up with a new way so that our accounts can obtain capital equipment more affordably. And and the model that we're introducing at Trinity, no one's ever introduced that. And look, the 30-day buyback guarantee, I think everybody should do that because, one-day evaluations are great, but what do you know after a day? Absolutely nothing. They brought the device in. They tell you a lot of great things. Look, some sales reps will tell you that their device will jumpstart the space shuttle if they can get you to sign on the bottom line.
Right.
Just so I would say with our technology and with our way of selling, where you get the 30-day risk-free, you really have nothing to lose. In 30 days, if you don't like it, you return it. I think every company should do that, but they're not going to do that because I think if they did, there would be a lot of people who were talked into signing a 150 or higher sales contract that after thinking about it for 30 days, they would probably say, no, I don't want to do this.
Right.
But if they don't offer it, then it's too late. Once you sign it, like I said, the leasing company gives them their funds, and once they've given them their funds, you're locked
buyer's
into it.
remorse can be what it is, but it's
locked
not
into
going to
it.
change anything. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's been fascinating watching the devices evolve over the last 20 and 30 years as the lasers have changed, right? And getting into multifunction, the microneedling evolving into the RF
Sure.
type treatments. And the pelvic floor opportunity seems like it's been starting to get traction more and more in not just medical practices, where somebody's going in private speaking with their physician or their primary care physician about maybe incontinence or sexual wellness, but also as they're talking to their aesthetics providers and getting the option to get treated there,
Sure.
and also avoiding all of the insurance debacles and navigating that depending on state. So I think that it's been a fascinating product to watch come to market, and as it's starting to get traction, the Restora and the EMS, what you're doing with Trinity and its approach, like kind of with a lease or a rental model, walking through, and thank you for taking the time to walk through that, and because it really is pretty revolutionary as a practice on how to acquire these devices and these capital equipment pieces. You've always emphasized being provider first, and I think you were kind of speaking to that just a little bit now, and how it's not about the money, it's about your clients,
Right.
and by extension, those patients. And and I've seen a lot of practices be really hesitant to add new devices, right? They're treading super careful because of those high capital costs and consumables and the costs of it by extension that you only know about once you buy, right? There's a lot of products out there that have these massive consumable budgets, and you don't realize how much more it's going to take after you spend all the money on the device itself. So I think you taking the approach of, getting a model out there that lowers that barrier and makes adoption and integration into a practice easier is really just a fantastic opportunity for practices. There are some practices that are probably, it's going to make more sense for them just to explore a purchase in some types of equipment. But having options for certain types of practices based on their revenue thresholds and the revenue ceiling makes a ton of sense. In your experience, what you're seeing out there with the practices that are deploying these and implementing them, what type of ROI is a typical practice expecting with devices like this, and what metrics matter most to those practices when evaluating success?
Okay, and I would say, and that's something you have to consider is the ROI, and even if you can't afford it, even if you can afford the $3,000 lease payment, if you don't have the patient population to support that product, then it's still just going to sit in the corner and not pay for itself. And that's the
Right.
beautiful thing about our model is our rental model. you're not. It's just a month-to-month rental. You keep it as long as you want to. Look, there's a doctor in Jackson, Mississippi. She recently added our Restore a chair, and I was telling her about our model, and she goes, "Okay, Mark, what's the catch?" I go, "Dr. Ferguson, what do you mean, what's the catch?" She goes, "Okay, so you're putting this chair in here for $11,000. How are you making money?" And I was like, "Dr. Ferguson, look, I'm going to make my money. I'm planning on you keeping that chair 5 years, okay? If you keep it 5 years, that's 60 payments that you made at $1,000 a month. That's $60,000. Plus, I collected 11 up front. That's $71,000 that I collected off that chair. I just don't have to make it all at once, and I don't have to make it risking whether this is going to work in your practice or not. Because the beautiful thing about it is, no one knows what's going to happen in the future. There could be a better technology come along that's better than this. They could, God forbid, have some kind of terminal illness and they need to stop. I mean,
Sure.
That's the beautiful thing about this is they can just stop. And something else where a lot of companies get you is consumables and disposables. Okay, we don't have any consumables and disposables with our product. Okay, you can use it as many times as you want to. God bless you if you're using it. 8 hours a day. We don't have any of that. But that's where another place where capital equipment companies get you, and they've all started building it into their model. And guess what?
Right.
When capital equipment sales aren't there, and they need to increase their revenue, they'll raise the price of their consumables and disposables. Because what choice do you have?
Right.
If you're going to use the device, you got to buy it. Okay, that's what drives me crazy. Are consumables and disposables. Sometimes they're necessary. RF microneedling, you get blood on them. You don't want to reuse those. That is a necessary consumable.
Sure.
Some of the consumables and disposables are not necessary, but it's just a way for them to sell you a product and make you keep buying it. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And in our device, I recently read that there's as many adults in diapers right now as there are toddlers, because the baby boomers are living longer, and everybody, as we age, is going to experience a weak pelvic floor
Sure.
issue. Okay, but what I was talking about, Dr. Ferguson in Jackson. She did something really unique. She had a little open house, and she had her Restore chair there, and they would come in. Her patients would come in, and she was running a Botox special. And she was like, "Look, I'm going to put you in the numbing room for 30 minutes. We can either set you in the regular chair in there, or we have the new Restore chair that strengthens the pelvic floor, and it helps with incontinence issues or women's sexual wellness, and she was just saying anything to do with the weak pelvic floor. If you want to, it's a 28-minute procedure. You stay fully clothed. You can sit on that, and normally it's a $250 treatment. We're going to let you have the first one for free." And they sat on the chair. And in one day, now she sells the package. You need 6 treatments, $250 a treatment, $1,500 for the package. In one day, she sold nine packages. Because
Wow.
everybody has, as they age, are going to have weak pelvic floor issues. There's another doctor who is, he's a plastic surgeon in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's Randy Waldman. And Dr. Waldman said, "You know what, Mark? All of my patients are over 40 years old. Okay, they're all over 40, and they're here because they want to look beautiful. They don't want to talk to me about incontinence because a woman really doesn't want to talk to a man about it." But they'll talk to our female staff about it. And he goes, "We kind of do the same thing. We'll let them sit on have the first treatment for free, and then tell them, if you want to sign up for the other 5 instead of $1,500, we already gave you the first one free. It's $1,250. I mean, and what Dr. Waldman told me, he goes, "Mark, my patients have these issues, and my colleagues who are also plastic surgeons, their patients have these issues as well. I'm not an incontinence, that's not what I specialize in. But my patients have these issues, And if I can help them while they're here, I'll help them while I'm here. Family practice doc. He's always, he's actually here in Birmingham. You go see him and you sit in the office for 25 minutes waiting for him to come inside the room to see you. He has them sit on the chair while they're waiting for him to come into the room to see him. And he goes, we all have the issue. Men and women have the issue. And ours is FDA cleared for treating both men and women.
Yeah, and I think you just answered a question that earlier was on my mind, which is for a med spa and some of these practices and these small practice owners, what they would need to understand about the demand and patient outcomes in this space, because the pelvic floor or pelvic health isn't always top of mind for med spa owners. But I think you kind of explained that. How do you see like the best tactics? Actually, you might have just answered this one too. I was thinking about how clinics can integrate this type of service into the patient journey. And I could see where the cross-selling opportunity when they arrive, and the opportunity to expose them to the treatment for existing patients. How would you position this for both marketing on the front side and driving consultations? And then what have you seen working out there for good retention strategies after that?
Okay. And I would tell you, if anybody is interested in generating a lot of income for their practice, just rent a billboard and put a billboard with a man or a woman up there that says weak pelvic floor issues, we can help. Contact us. Their phone will ring off the hook. Okay.
Just like that.
Because, I'm thinking about a patient. I'm not going to say her name, but she said, "Look, I've had 3 kids, and after 3 kids, if I sneeze, I pee. If I stand up too fast, I leak. If I, laugh, I leak." She said, "It's so bad, I don't even want to go out to dinner at night because I'm scared that I'm going to leak." There's so many women like that. She sent me a message. She said, "Look, after my 6 treatments, I am 90% cured." Okay. She goes, "I'm not wearing any protection anymore. I don't wear diapers anymore. I don't wear pads anymore." She goes, "This thing, the procedure is so simple. It's so easy." She goes, it changes your life. And she said, "It restored my confidence." There's another lady, a 72-year-old lady, sent me a message, and she had the same issues, but she was waking up, not only did she have incontinence issues, but she also had nocturia issues where she was waking up 4 times in the middle of the night to go urinate. And she has a smartwatch. She said she was getting as little as 13 minutes of REM sleep a night because she was waking up. She said after she did her 6 treatments, she goes, she may wake up once in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And she goes, but my REM sleep has increased dramatically. And she goes, and not only has my REM sleep increased, she goes, when I was waking up, my heart rate would be, according to her smartwatch, 120 beats per minute. She goes, now when I wake up, it's at 65. So,
amazing.
This device, and I'm not just saying it's just my chair. I think you get the same results with Emsella. I think you get the same results with PF Toner. Ours is just a more affordable way to do it. But this technology, it really is. It's incredible technology. And look, I love my aesthetic lasers. This chair, I'm more excited about this chair than anything I've ever sold. And I'm not selling this. I'm renting it. But I'm more excited about this device than anything else I've had.
That's amazing. Yeah, and great information. Mark, I've kept you on here for nearly an hour, and man, I appreciate you taking the time. And before we wrap up, though, if there's one thing that you wish every med spa or wellness center or wellness clinic owner understood about technology adoption and implementation, business growth, and patient care, what would that be?
Okay. First of all, do your homework. There's a lot of good sales guys out there who can talk you into pulling the trigger, okay? Don't give into that. Make sure it's something that you are going to have the patient population to support. Make sure it's something that you can afford, because if you buy a piece of capital equipment, it's a balancing act. it really is a balancing act whether it's going to work or not. It could be the best thing in the world for your business, or it could devastate your business. So just be very careful. Make sure that the company that you're standing behind, first of all, there's a lot of devices out there that they claim that they're FDA cleared for this and that. Ask for the FDA clearance. So I want to see your FDA clearance, okay? If they don't have it, then you sure don't want to. If they don't provide it, you sure don't want to buy it. Second of all, just read what it's FDA cleared for. Second of all, the next thing I tell you is you're going to have to market, okay? Just because you buy the piece of equipment, it doesn't mean that it's. If you don't let your patients know that you have the technology, and that's something you need to talk to the company about. What kind of marketing support are you going to provide me? Do you have brochures for the office? Do you have banners for the office? Do you have any type of email that I can send out to my clients? Ask them about how they're going to support you. Number 3, ask how much the service contract is after the sale, because what they don't tell you is you spend $150,000 or $200,000 for the device. Their service contracts, a good rule of thumb, 10% of list price. So if the list price is $150,000, it's a $15,000 service contract you're going to be buying. Or if it's $200,000, it's a $20,000 service contract you're going to be buying next year. And I can promise you, if you don't buy it from them, when it breaks down, they're going to get their money. They're going to get it. So, be very cautious when buying capital equipment, and do your homework. And I think it's best if you can, instead of letting them give you a reference, because they're only going to give you people who are going to say great things. See if you can find somebody in a little town that's close by who's got the technology. Maybe you can find them that maybe they're 60 miles or 100 miles away, and a doctor will talk to another doctor and just ask them direct, how's this thing really working out for you?
Great.
So I would just recommend I know you get excited about it, you hear great things, and I can tell you can hear great things up at the podium, and 3 years later you don't hear anything about them. So just be real careful and do your homework before you spend 6 figures on a device.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for that. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for coming on and sharing your insights and experience and all the wisdom you've gotten along this journey with us today. It really stands out and translates how you've combined decades of industry expertise, but with a genuine mission to make technology more accessible and impactful for both providers and patients. And your experience leading major device companies and now helping practices expand into this next wave, with pelvic health through Trinity. That journey is kind of, to me, it speaks to a perfect example of what happens when innovation meets with integrity. And everything that you've said really spells that out to me. For the med spa owners and wellness owners who might be watching or listening, if you've been thinking about expanding your service lines or adding a new revenue stream that could improve patient outcome, I would encourage you to check out what Mark and his team are doing. Mark, is TrinityMedSol.com, is that the best site for them to look you up?
Yes, Trinity, it's TRINITY Med, MEDSOL. TrinityMedSol.com. That's our website. And then you can always reach me. I'm going to give you my phone number, 205-356-1172. And guys, I don't mind telling you that's my cell phone number. So you can call me about Trinity. You can call me about Rohre. You can call me about Sandstone. Anything I can help you with, I'm always here to support you.
Amazing.
If I don't answer, you can send me a text. I promise you I'll get back to you.
Amazing. I can't tell you, I could count on one hand how many people throw their personal cell phone out and do a publication like this. So, Mark, thanks again for joining us on Moving the Needle. And to the listeners, again, if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Join our free Facebook group, Moving the Needle for Med Spas, where we share practical strategies for helping you attract, convert, retain more patients. Until next time, keep moving the needle, keep growing your practice with purpose.
Thank you. Appreciate you.